Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. I'll be doing the Hindu news analysis for today. These are the 5 articles that we have taken up for discussion, and towards the end we'll see previous year questions. So the first article for the day is about Trilateral highway, which will start in India and will pass through Myanmar and then will end in Thailand. Let us see about this. So why is this in news? Because it is said that around 70% of the construction work on the IMT, India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral highway has been completed. So the Union Minister for Transport, he is saying this. So India, Thailand and Myanmar, all three countries are working on a 1400 kilometer long highway. So which will link all these countries together, and this in fact will boost what? Will boost trade, business, health, education and tourism. So what the minister is telling around 70% of the work of the project is completed. So see, from More in Manipur, it will connect 𝐒𝐻 in Thailand. So see, from here Manley, and then from Naypyidaw, and then it ends in 𝐒𝐻. So this is the project, but no details on when the project will be completed was not given. Strategic highway, the project has been delayed, like it happens, it's been going for a long time. Earlier the plan was to open it by 2019, but now you see it is prolonged. The 1360 kilometer long India Myanmar, so this is the entire stretch. So India is undertaking construction of two sections of the Trilateral highway. So one is the 120 kilometer 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞 road section, and then they will be constructing 69 bridges along with the road on the 149.70 kilometer 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻 road section. So they are doing it on what model? They are doing it on EPC model. So it's a public private partnership only, and so the schedule for completion is 3 years. So who's funding it? Government of India under grant assistance to the government of Myanmar. What are the other information that we are supposed to know with respect to this project? Motor vehicles agreement also will be signed. So this is the MVA. So then only what can happen? Movement of cargo, passenger, vehicular traffic, all these things can happen. So India, Myanmar and Thailand, they are having motor vehicle agreement. So let us see the background. So why India is doing this? IMT Trilateral highway is a highway. Why they are doing is, this will help boost India's Look East policy. So this will boost trade and commerce, and you all know India has free trade area with ASEAN. So this will be good for the country, and in the future this will be extended to Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam. So what is India's Look East policy? India's Look East policy is an effort to bring Indian government to cultivate and strengthen economic and strategic relations with Southeast Asian countries. So this will also help boost its image as a regional power. And one more thing, Look East policy will do what? It will make India a counterweight to China in the region. So Look East policy should be supported by Look East connectivity, because commerce with the South and East Asian nations accounts for almost 45% of India's foreign trade, and Myanmar and Asian nations are also part of India's Look East policy. So I hope this entire map is clear for you. So just have a look at this map. I hope you understood this article. Now let us move on to the next topic. In this topic we'll see Minister Smriti Irani's request to make children in care homes legally free for adoption. Let us see what this article is about. So Union Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani said child care homes had helped 7 lakh children across the country in the past 9 years to reunite with their families. and she has asked child welfare communities to visit child care homes, and she's asking if the children are older, we can make them free for adoption at the earliest. So according to the official data that we have, nearly 66,000 children reside in child care homes across the country, but only less than 3,000 people are legally free for adoption. So, and the minister has told that recently she has reviewed two states and looked into 9,000 cases of older children, and she has identified 164 children who could be made legally free for adoption. And she has given certain directives, that is direction to NCPCR. So what she's told, she's asked childcare homes to look into infrastructure gaps in their respective areas, and requested the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights to review these gaps and report to the ministry. And she says she'll so that she can help with all those things during the budget. So she said in the past 9 years, nearly 3 lakh children who went missing had been reunited with their parents, and under the child protection services, rupees 2,000 a month is being offered for non-institutional childcare. But now what has happened, this has been increased to 4,000 rupees a month under Mission Vatsalaya. So from prelims point of view, you should just see what is the NCPCR. So it was set up in March 2007 under the Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and as you all know, it works under Ministry of Women and Child Development. So who is a child? So according to in India, the definition for a child is anyone up to the age of 18 years. So what is the Commission's mandate? It has to ensure that laws, policies, programs and administrative mechanisms are in consonance with child rights perspective as enshrined in the Constitution of India. In the Constitution of India, what are the child rights? Where do you see? You see in fundamental rights, we see that in DPSP, we see that in fundamental duties. So those things the NCPCR should take care of, and it should also look into United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So, and then under the Right to Education Act 2008, what the NCPCR can do? It can inquire into complaints about violation of the law. It can summon an individual and demand evidence. It can seek a magisterial inquiry. It can file a writ petition in High Court or Supreme Court, and it can approach the government concerned for prosecution of the offender, and it can even recommend interim relief to those affected. So what does the NCPCR consist of? It consists of a chairperson and 6 members, and out of the 6 members, at least 2 should be women. So all of them are appointed by the central government for 3 years. The maximum age to serve is 65 years for the chairman and 60 years for member. And you should know about child welfare committees also. They are formed under Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act 2015. So as per section 27 clause 1 of the act, child welfare committees are to be constituted by state government, and they should be there in every district for exercising the powers and to discharge the duty which has been given to them by JJ Act 2015. So why all these powers and duties were given? It is to take care of the children and look into their needs. So how district welfare committee, what will that have? Child welfare committee at the district level, what will have? It will consist of a chairperson and 4 other members the state government appoints, and out of this, 1 should be a woman and 1 should be an expert on matters concerning children. So what is their eligibility condition? Chairperson and the member shall be above the age of 35 years, and they should have at least 7 years of experience working with children in the field of education, health or welfare activities, or should be a practicing professional with a degree in child psychology, psychiatry, or social work or sociology or human development, or in the field of law, or he or she should be a retired judicial officer. So in this article, mainly you should know what is NCPCR, and this child welfare committees, how they come about. They come through the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about Pangong Lake. So why is this in news? Because 3 years back there was a violent clash between India and Chinese forces in Galwan, and it was followed by each army having their tanks facing each other in the Pangong Tso lake. So that's why this lake is in use. Now let us see about this Pangong Tso. So Pangong Tso is spanning, which means it's spread around eastern Ladakh and western Tibet. So China is rushing to complete a bridge across the Pangong Tso. What this bridge will do, it will connect the north and south bank. So India also is doing the same. They are building a black topped road on side of the north bank. So, and there are a lot of number of infrastructure projects that are going on. So what is this then? This has permanently altered the status quo on the ground level in eastern Ladakh. And so they are doing this at the same time. Parallelly, what they are doing, 19th round of commander level talks is going on to find a solution to the dispute in the region. So this is the Galwan Valley. Looks amazing, breathtaking, isn't it? So the clashes are going on here only. This is where all the infrastructure projects, everything is going on. So what the army people there are telling. So this black topped road on the finger 4. So we saw, no, all these places are called finger 1, finger 2, like that. So it looks like finger, right? So they are called finger 1, finger 2, like that. So it will be over by 2025. So the government is giving major impetus to infrastructure, road networks, advanced landing grounds, and so on. So another official also has confirmed this. So construction work is going on in other places also, like Darbuk, Skyok, Daulat Beg Oldie Road through the Sasarla Pass. So all these things are also going on in the sideline. So what is Chinese doing? So they have a first bridge they have started, and the secondary bridge has been completed. So large scale construction activity was observed in the north bank. So apart from the bridge, this work is going on for road connectivity along the south bank towards Shandon village. So this is also under progress. And now there's a Chinese air defense site also in the east of Kurnak Fort, and 22-kilometer tunnel is also under construction along the G0177 expressway at Yuli. So it connects the very important G216 highway in Tibet. So close to 1 lakh troops continue to be deployed on either side of the lake since 2020, and the Corps commander level talks remain gridlocked because there are a lot of friction points at Depsang and Demchok. So at both the locations, the Chinese are blocking Indian patrols, and there are some climb down has been there on Chinese position during talks. That is, the Chinese are willing to compromise on few things. So the budgetary allocation for the border road organization has increased sharply over the past few years because for this year it is the BR's capital budget is 5,000 crores, which is 43% higher than 3,500 crores which was allotted earlier. So much of this has been spent on India-China border roads only. So the sources are telling that significant progress has been made in these things. So using this money, they are going to construct over 1,400 kilometers of strategic roads. So border road organization is now what they are going to do. They are going to finish some key infrastructure projects in the eastern sector. So using this, what will happen? All weather connectivity along the line of actual control will start. So Pangong Tso, let us see a few things about Pangong Tso. What does it mean? It literally means conclave. Pangong means conclave in the Ladakhi language, and so means lake, that you all know. So it's situated over 14,000 feet, and the lake is 135 meters long, and most of it is under China's control only. So it is formed by the Techis geosyncline, and it's a part of the Karakoram mountain range. So it crosses Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and India. And the highest peak sometimes goes over 6,000 meters, including K2. This is the world's again the highest peak. So this ends at the north of bank of Pangong Tso. So its southern bank to has high broken mountain slopes. So and the lake's water is crystal clear, but it's brackish. That is, it's salty and it is not undrinkable. So why is there a dispute? The line of actual control, that is the line actually that separates the Indian and Chinese troops since 1962. So it generally runs along the land except for the width of Pangong. So here it runs through the water. So both their sides have marked their areas along which side belongs to which country. India controls along about 145 kilometer stretch, and China controls close to 90 kilometer. So what are fingers? We keep seeing fingers. So we saw in that diagram itself, no, in the picture itself, no. So the lake has mountain spurs in the 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿 range, and they jet down. So that's why it's called as fingers. So there are 8 of them in contention here. So India and China have different understanding of which LAC passes through which. So India keeps telling that line of actual control passes through finger 8. So this has actually been the site of the final military port of China, and India has been patrolling the area mostly on foot because of the nature of terrain. So they go up to finger 8. But beyond finger 4 they have no active control. But China on the other hand says line of actual control passes through finger 2, and it patrols up to finger 4 mostly in light vehicles, and times up to finger 2. So this is why it's called fingers. So why does China want to encroach areas along Pangong Tso? Because Pangong Tso is strategically very crucial because it's very close to Chushul Valley. This Chushul Valley was the battlefront during the 1962 war, and China wants to keep India constricted in the region by taking strategic advantage, because if they take over Chushul Valley, it will be easier for them in case of a war. And China also does not want to does not want India to increase its infrastructure anywhere near line of actual control, because it fears that it threatens its occupation of 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥, because it is very close to Tibet, right? So that is one reason. Next is any threat to this highway, that is the Lhasa-Kashgar highway, puts Chinese imperialist plan in Pakistan occupied territories in Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. So China is this one belt one road policy is going through this 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥, Pakistan occupied Kashmir and all those things. So if India is being assertive, it is very risky for China. So that is why China is doing all these things to keep India contained. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about talking about how democracy is important, so on and so forth. So articles like this can help you write ethics and essay answers. So let us have a look at this article. So the author starts this article in a very euphemistic or a rather pessimistic tone. So he starts the article saying the real India. So what is the real India is telling? This destitution, exploitation, unfreedom, and is saying not so shining India. And is saying despite the rising economy, there is widening economic and social disparities. Next is giving data, is telling 35.5% of the country is undernourished, and they are stunted children, and there are 4 second widows, mothers grieving for the loss of their children because of undernourishment and stunting, and unable to bear the grief of losing their daughters to lust and violence, and even seeing fathers see his child starve to death. So he's telling these things are still happening in India, not just at a minor scale but at a very large scale. And what is the condition of Dalits in our country? Recently Dalit's hand was chopped because he used the ball of upper caste people who are playing near his house. He touched the ball, so they cut off his thumb. So he's telling these things are still happening in India. And when it comes to healthcare, million people have lost their lives because of even small diseases like preventable diseases, and elderly citizens are not able to lead a dignified life. Their life there's no fulfillment, and there's hate, prejudice, cold-blooded murders going on, and custodial torture, coercive incarceration, which means putting in jail of dissenters and dissidents, because in a democracy there will obviously be dissenters and dissidents, and people flaunt their power So all this, the author is telling, it is painting a very painful truth of a morally impoverished politics. So he's telling it's not like how politics used to be in Nehru or Lal Bahadur Shastri's era. He's telling it is morally impoverished politics, and there is deep cavern of injustice. And he's telling there's purgatory of suffering. Millions of fellow citizens are continuing to suffer, and is telling the people who are heading leadership is not sensitive to all these moral injunctions. So he's telling what should the leaders do? It's not just find a fork on the historical road, but help create it. So how you do it? He's telling such a nation will be created based on shared empathy, which should transcend all divides. And he's telling leadership does not come to meek or the servile, who confuse surrender of conscience for loyalty to a higher purpose. So he's telling if you are surrendering your conscience, it is not loyalty. So he's telling this is how people are these times to leadership. And these days political choices are driven by personal loyalties. He's saying that is wrong because Thomas Mowbray is censuring citizens who are very loyal and all those things. So for that he says, my life thou shall command, but not my shame. The one, my duty vows, but my fair name. Despite of death, the lives upon my grave. So all this is telling because there's going to be state assembly and Lok Sabha election in 2024. So he's telling people should be very conscious. Pluralist democracy is the bedrock of our country, and this is what the constitutional framers imagined, and there should be voters should vote keeping that in mind. And next is telling there should be resistance against the muscular propensity of an emerging Leviathan state. What is a Leviathan state? It's a very big monstrous type of state. So if you want to escape from that Leviathan state, what you should do? There should be passionate participation of citizens in the electoral process. So not just the people, even intelligentsia, that is intellectual, should come and participate, is what the author is trying to tell. So he's telling we cannot forget an abiding truth of history, that a pervasive sense of injustice carries within itself the seeds of disruptive retribution, and that the progressive advance of human civilization is embellished by the triumph of right over wrong. So he's telling this is going to happen. So what is the unfulfilled vision? So this is a political season because we are going to have elections. So he's telling there are a lot of possibilities. So he's telling what we as a nation should look forward for is where laughter rings, where lush creepers of stories decorate lives, where the caverns of justice run tree and deep, where the fire of illumination and wisdom burns warm, where love is not a fatal poison, where redemption and mercy do not hide their wings. So if you want to realize this vision, it requires what? Will, fortitude and judgment. So he's telling we should make proper choices, and these choices should be based on dignity, justice, inclusion, fraternity, sensitivity to popular perceptions, and accountability of power. So all these things will determine whether or not India's electoral democracy can vindicate its liberal promise. So there's a liberal part to India's constitution, right? So only if these things are satisfied, constitution will be a living document. So it's telling let us hope that all these things are upheld in the upcoming election. So this is what this article is about. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about genome sequencing. So the authors are asking you to imagine about a situation where a severely ill newborn is in the ICU, and the baby needs a very fast, effective diagnosis which could give it a good treatment. So this is actually a scenario which plays out practically in every neonatal ICU on a regular basis. But the situation is a bit complicated when the disease affecting the baby is not common and it is not known to many doctors, and to know about it you will have to go through a lot of medical textbooks and databases. So this is because this is called a genetic diseases. So there are close to 6,000 genetic diseases, of which around 3,500 have been documented, and a much smaller number have had their molecular genetic defects mapped. So a significant number of diseases in the population are also treatable, but they are still present. So newborn screening is now happening in different countries, and even a lot of states in India do it. So this is based on the fact that early diagnosis could allow us to use effective treatments and save an infant from death or disability. So for example, in the US, what do doctors do? They screen for around 30 diseases, including treatable genetic defects on the blood, endocrine system and metabolism. So again, in many cases, they lose the window of opportunity because standard newborn screening programs are limited in the menu of genetic tests they cover. But there are a lot of recent advances that have been going on. Genomic sequencing is now available, accessible, and in many ways more affordable. And it also offers a much better coverage of genetic diseases to screen so far. So importantly, so what it does, it helps healthcare workers make a fast and effective diagnosis, helped by the fact that sequencing is also a single test. Because earlier it used to be multiple tests performed as a part of screening new babies, but now it's just a single test. So now you might ask, why is it important to sequence newborn genomes? Because many genetic diseases are rare, and the window of opportunity is also very narrow, and the diagnostic paths are very long. And this genetic disease sometimes leads to unfortunate deaths of newborns, making it very difficult to document and understand these diseases. So when you do population scale genomic sequencing, right, it gives you a lot of insights into the prevalence of many of these diseases in an unbiased manner. So discoveries in the last 3 decades, even though they are small, but significant number of diseases are able to be treated and managed effectively because of screening methods only. So things like this screen up newer opportunity to do what? To diagnose and to treat genetic diseases through genome sequencing in newborns, especially sick newborns. So what has happened? Researchers at Radius Children Institute, led by Stephen Kingsmore, showed that whole genome sequencing could provide a much higher number of positive cases with diagnosis around 40%. Earlier standard genetic test, it showed only 10%. So, and of the 40% diagnosed, 26% of the diagnosed children benefited from reduced severity of illness due to early diagnosis, and in fact the cost of treatment has also come down, so children are benefiting from it. So there are a lot of reports vouching for things like that. So why should we sequence healthy newborns? That is the first question. So the benefits of sequencing may not be limited to newborns who are unwell. So the baby sequence project funded by the US National Institute of Health is one of the most comprehensive studies to evaluate sequencing of newborns. So in that, what they found, they evaluated sequence of 127 apparently healthy and 32 sick infants. It found that over 10% of infants had an unanticipated risk of genetic disease. So when these infants were followed up for 3 to 5 years, their sequence revealed that the cause of disease in 3 infants, and in the remaining 14, a better picture of the risk was made, and they were put under medical surveillance. And the sequencing also warranted additional at-risk family members of 13 infants to have their gene sequenced. So through babies, they went to their families, and 3 of them benefited from subsequent surgeries. So another recent study which surveyed 200 genetic experts, they are also telling the same thing. So they're telling sequencing newborn should be a part of routine care. So that's why the United Kingdom's National Health Services launched a nationwide program where they sequenced 1 lakh sick newborns. So now they are telling there's need for speed, because earlier sequencing was done in 26 hours, then it came to 19.5 hours, now it is just done in 5 hours 2 minutes. So now what they are telling, with all this technological advances, AI based tool, clinical decision, rapid sequencing, so diagnosis for these unwell found infants can be easily done. So this is what they are trying to say. But is there an ethical angle to it? Yes, because families have to disclose their incidental and secondary findings, which will raise concerns about privacy and psychological impact on families. and there should be equitable distribution of benefits and burdens, right? Because people are accessing and utilizing this technology. So there is the question of justice and fairness also. So this vast potential of newborn genome sequencing starts. We are standing at crossroads of open introspection. But technology wise, we know that it will help clinicians to detect rare genetic disorders, anticipate susceptibility to disease, and give them evidence required to prescribe better treatments and shape a healthier future. But the author is telling we must also tread a bit carefully because there's a delicate balance between benefits and harm. So if we do, then it may not be far-fetched to imagine, right, if things go properly, then every child that is born will have whole genomic sequence in the years to come. So that is the future of genome sequencing is going to be. Now let us go to previous year question analysis. This question was asked like 2 years back. So who was Baba Buddhi, Hastimala and Shemeshwara? They are all playwrights. So songs from prison is a translation of ancient Indian religious lyrics in English. Who authored it? It was Gandhi. So the answer is C, Gandhi. Which one of the following statements is correct? This is a tough question. So they ask questions like this in the exam. So the right answer is Ajanta caves lie in the gorge of Vagora river. With reference to Madanapalle of Andhra Pradesh, which one of the following statement is correct? This might seem like a tough question, but this is a direct, this question was directly taken from the NCERT. So it was your Rabindranath Tagore translated national anthem from Bengali to English. So the answer is C. So that's all for the day. If you like it, you can comment, share and subscribe the channel. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in and see you again tomorrow.